Greetings guys, gals, non-binary pals, and welcome back to another video. Now, I am sure by now you have all seen what took place in New Zealand Parliament last week. But if not, let me give you a little bit of a recap. So basically, in Parliament last week, a bill was put forwards, but during the vote for it, our youngest member of MP stood up and interrupted by starting the Haka, and then a lot of other people joined in, and it put Parliament and the discussion to a halt. And that went viral. That blew up exponentially. It has hundreds of millions of views, which is ridiculous considering there are only 5 million people in New Zealand. That's like 100 times the country. Like it's wild to me. But anyway, that occurred and was everywhere, and a lot of people have a lot to say about it. Obviously, it is an incredibly powerful thing, and I am very proud of them for doing that and like for everything that is happening back home and the protests and things that are happening. However, there's obviously a lot of people who are calling it cringe and being like, ooh, why would you do that? Oh, I have secondhand embarrassment. And one of those people is, of course, Matt Walsh of the Daily Wire, who thought it would be a great idea to make a 21-minute video about this event, despite not knowing a single thing about New Zealand politics. Now, if you don't know me, as you can hopefully surely tell by my name, I am a Kiwi. I am from Aotearoa, New Zealand. And so I have a lot to say. I started watching this video. I started Matt Walsh's video, but I couldn't get through it without just wanting to throw things. So I thought I would save the rest of the video to watch with you and react as we go, because I wanted to save some of that raw emotion, you know? I have watched the first few minutes, but the rest of that we're going to be watching together because I didn't want to feel, I didn't want to have to subject myself to this too many times. So that's what we're going to do today. I will give you context to everything that's happening in Parliament and everything as we go, just because I feel like I don't want to have to go over it a bunch of times, because I'm sure Matt is going to have some comments on it himself, and I will just use my breath to correct him rather than, you know, so we're not going back and forth and back and forth, we're just going back and forth. Anyway, let's jump in and listen to what Matt Walsh has to say about a government he has no idea about and a culture he knows nothing about at all.
Well, it's no secret that as Americans, we mostly focus on domestic politics in our own country. Unlike, say, Canadians, we don't obsess over the daily comings and goings of other nations. It's virtually impossible to find a single American who can name a Canadian Supreme Court justice or a member of parliament. I know I certainly can't.
I don't think it's a flex to be like, yeah, I don't know anything about anyone else's politics. I only care about America and American politics. Like, not a flex, bro. Maybe you should know a little bit about the happenings of other countries around the world, but that's just me.
Every once in a while, something happens in the parliament of a foreign country that it's hard for us to ignore here in America. The viral moment that just took place in the Parliament of New Zealand, on the other hand, does have some relevance for Americans.
So I really want to know how this is one of the biggest things to be happening in politics, to you. I want to know how this directly impacts you as an American. I'm really curious about that. And I wonder if we're going to find out more about how this event impacts you as an American. And I'm terrified to find out how, actually, to be honest. I don't know if I like where you're going to go with it.
Several politicians in New Zealand just broke out into a primal Stone Age war dance called the Haka to protest a piece of legislation that's working its way through Parliament.
Calling it a Stone Age war dance is fucking hilarious for a number of reasons. Being the Stone Ages were what, 2 million years ago and lasted until 3,300 BC. There have not been human beings in New Zealand since the Stone Ages. Maori people settled in Aotearoa around 1,000 years ago. So it's definitely not a Stone Age dance. Just to get off and start with that, straight out of the bat, first thing out of your mouth. Complete bullshit, but whatever. We carry on.
This Haka dance, it's very dangerous. And you could tell the people doing it, they think it's real spooky and really scary. And they're right, it is dangerous because it may cause everybody in the vicinity to die of secondhand embarrassment.
I love just going straight for racism. You know what I mean? Just straight for it. Baffling, because like he has no idea what the Haka is. You know what I mean? Like none of these people who are commenting on it from overseas, like a majority of them don't know what the Haka is. They don't care to know what the Haka is. They see it at the start of All Blacks rugby games and are like, that's a dance and a chant that they do to intimidate the other team. But it's so much more than that. It is a sacred dance that they use for a multitude of different reasons. It's used at celebrations, it's used for mournings, it's used for welcomings, and it is also used as like a war dance and for political purposes. And using it in this instance to interrupt this discussion that is being had is a completely valid place for it to be used. It is one of the things that it is like used for. Traditionally, this is a time in which it is valid to be used, and so she used it. It is not uncommon for events to be broken up by waiata and by haka commencing at some point. Like that is not an uncommon occurrence at events. It does happen, and it is not a like secondhand embarrassment cringe thing. It is a normal thing that occurs. Everyone in that room understood why a haka broke out. Everyone in that room has seen a haka be done many, many times throughout their lives. And they've seen it in every circumstance, for celebrations, for mournings, for ceremonies, for politics. We've all seen the haka take place in many different forms. And it is like, when it made it onto the wider web, people thinking that it's just like a thing that happens for like rugby games as a confrontation thing is like the only place it exists, and that it seems out of place in Parliament. You're just going into this with absolutely zero knowledge of what the haka actually is, what it symbolizes, and what it is utilized for. And I love just before she starts the haka, she says, "Governor, oh governor, you are only visitors here." And I'm obsessed with that. I love that. Fucking go off. And the reason she stood up and started the haka in the first place is because they're looking at a bill that is going to look at and reevaluate the principles of the Treaty of Waitangi, which, yeah, I think she is within every right to make this decision. But we'll get into that a little bit more as we go.
Thankfully, a few people have dubbed the audio in various ways. There's one remix that turns it into a jazzy little piano number from 1925.
So incredibly disrespectful. So incredibly disrespectful. Oh my God, Matt Walsh, I'm going to wring your neck.
You know, it's a lot less cringe when you dub in some real music instead of the prehistoric grunting.
When you dub in real music instead of the prehistoric grunting, sir, that is a whole language. That's a language. They are saying words. Did you just call an entire language prehistoric grunting? Bro, that's low even for you, I think.
Now, it's a little hard to see in all the pandemonium, but they're getting in the face of a politician named David Seymour.
Fuck David Seymour. I'm sorry. You say, ooh. David Seymour. David Seymour.
Who introduced a bill that they don't like. The people doing the screeching identify as Maori, meaning they see themselves as the allegedly indigenous people of New Zealand, and they're chanting like barbarians and making gun gestures at David Seymour while saying something that apparently translates to evil.
I need to listen to that again, because he said so many things and everything hit me and made me speechless, and I missed half of them because I couldn't. Yep, okay, one more time. Allegedly indigenous people? Firstly, you're pronouncing it wrong. It's Maori, right? Not Maori. Secondly, allegedly indigenous people. Shut the fuck up, bro. What do you mean allegedly indigenous people? The Maori people are the indigenous people to New Zealand. And David Seymour is evil. And he deserves to be pointed at and yelled at. Because he is. Fuck David Seymour. And fuck the ACT Party.
And before I get into the specifics about this vote, what it was about, it needs to be reiterated that this whole Haka thing is just silly and embarrassing. Maybe you're not supposed to say that.
You aren't supposed to say that. Because it's not true. It's incredibly culturally important.
But it's obviously true. And everybody who sees it knows that, feels the same way, you know. And you see these videos sometimes, we're supposed to pretend like we think it's powerful and cool because it's part of a non-white culture, and so therefore it has to be good. But we all know that it's just lame and stupid as hell.
Why are you speaking on behalf of everyone here, Matt? Because that's just not even true at all. The amount of times I see like the Haka in whatever circumstance go viral on TikTok and people are in the comments like crying over it or getting emotional, talking about how beautiful it is, it's astounding to me. It's fascinating that like so many people outside of Aotearoa have seen the Haka, not just at like rugby matches, but like in other situations, and talk about how moving and powerful it is. Like, this is not even exclusive to white people in New Zealand thinking it's beautiful. It is like something that globally people really seem to find powerful. And I find it really interesting that you're here like, you're all lying. I don't think they are though. They're really not. People are not lying about this. You cannot enjoy the Haka if you want to, okay? But that doesn't mean you have to be disrespectful about it. And it doesn't mean you get to tell everyone else how they feel about it. And it doesn't mean you get to say that their entire, like, very important cultural practice is silly. 'Cause what the fuck, man? Fuck off.
In every context that this Haka is performed, it's cringeworthy to an immeasurable, painful degree. So here, for example, was the Haka that New Zealand's basketball team performed at a tournament in 2014, just before getting blown out by double digits by Team USA, which is why this just doesn't work. You can't do a fearsome war dance on behalf of a conquered people and then get conquered some more.
Sometimes I have a lot of words to say. Sometimes I can talk for days. And then other times I literally cannot find the words I need to express my thoughts on what you just said. You cannot do the war dance of a conquered people to just go and get conquered some more in response to the Haka at a basketball game that we lost. That's an insane thing to say. I just can't believe how easy it is for these people to just say some of the most like fucked up and insensitive shit like it's nothing. Like you just throw that out there as though that's like comparable and like an okay thing to say. What?
You know, the Maori have been doing this dance for centuries and they just get beaten every time in every context, in every type of battle they've ever been in, at least for the last 700 years.
I should have watched this video all the way through because I'm speechless. Okay, so there's a whole bunch of things that he just said that were wrong, for starters. One, the Māori have been beaten in every context. Like, for one, you're starting by saying that every time the Haka is performed, they lose. But the All Blacks do the Haka at every game, and they are like the best rugby team in the world who win regularly, and I believe have won 3 separate World Cups. So even in the context of sports, wrong, incorrect. In the context of the Haka in every other sense, it's not always used as a war dance. It is also used for celebrations. It is also used for like weddings and funerals. It is used for a numerous amount of things outside of being a war dance. It is not always confrontational. It is a ceremonial thing that can be used in so many different contexts. There's not always something to lose. It's just something that you do, that you celebrate, that you do as a community. And then going and being like, they've lost it every time they've done it for 700 years. Why 700 years? What an absurd number to guess at. Is that because the US was discovered 700 years ago? So like white people found the US 700 years ago, so that means New Zealand was at the same time? No, white people, Europeans didn't get to New Zealand until the 1600s. That was not 700 years ago, that was 400 years ago. So even in the context of like, you know, the musket wars and colonization, it's not been 700 years yet. And even still, like, there's so much history and like trauma and story of what took place during that period of colonization and the musket wars, and how we're ending up where we are now with the treaty and this whole bill that's being proposed. And I just find it so insane that you can sit here and lightly be like, you're doing a dance of a conquered people. They lost to white people lol, you're gonna lose again. What the fuck is wrong with you, bro? How do you just sit here and say that?
The so-called indigenous people had a meltdown in Parliament over a bill. And what you may not have seen is what preceded that moment. David Seymour laid out some rational and calm arguments in favor of his legislation. And then the so-called Maori politicians launched into a volley of personal attacks.
Shame on you, David Seymour. Ngāti Rehia will be ashamed that one of their sons has come up with a political stunt that looks to divide the nation. How dare you, David Seymour? You should be ashamed of yourself, and you are a liar.
Apologise for that last statement.
No, I can't do that.
Going to have to ask the member to withdraw himself from the House for the rest of the afternoon.
Willie Jackson sin-binned, but unapologetic.
Now already, this is how you know these people have no argument. They're only capable of shouting shame and resorting to personal attacks to the point that they repeatedly get thrown out of Parliament. Meanwhile, David Seymour is sitting there calmly saying he wants equality.
David Seymour, sure, okay. You pull out this bit of David Seymour coming through and calmly stating what he wants. And then, you know, the person whose, like, rights he's going after fairly, I think, reasonably, is like, hey, fuck you, maybe. Shame on you for trying to undermine my history and the rights of my people. Like, I think that that's incredibly valid. And you can sit here and be like, his bill is for equality. He's just said all he wants is New Zealanders to be equal. No, he doesn't. That's not what the bill is. That's not what's taking place here. That's just how he wants it to come across. But I guess that's exactly what Matt's entire thing is too, so...
Hundreds of years ago, around the late 13th century, Polynesian settlers arrived by canoe in New Zealand. And they became the Maori people. Depending on who you ask, they were either the first to arrive or they massacred everyone else who was already there when they got there. In any event, before long, the Maori wiped out a different tribe called the Moriori, who were pacifists living in the Chatham Islands in the east. And they got enslaved and beheaded and cannibalized by the Maori because apparently that's what, you know, civilized cultures do. And to be clear, this kind of thing was not out of character for the Maori. The Maori routinely enslaved and brutalized their enemies, just like so-called indigenous cultures all over the world. I mean, this is what they all did.
I love this little story, this little history lesson story time he's doing here. For one, I have never heard of this so-called earlier tribe of people that were there. If there was an earlier tribe of people in Aotearoa before the Māori people got there, I've never heard of them, so I can't comment on that. But I love, I love when he like sits there and when these sorts of people all say they're like, yeah, and so, like, you know, that's what civilized cultures do. They went in and they beheaded and they murdered people and they enslaved them. Because they're uncivilized, like all indigenous cultures, unlike us Europeans who came in and did exactly the same thing, but with guns, so it's better. If you have a problem with them arriving somewhere and like murdering the native people, why are you then the good guy for going and doing the same thing? Why are they uncivilized and you're civilized? If it's the same thing, you just have different weapons available to you. Like, I don't understand. The level of hypocrisy here is baffling. It's astounding to me. Like, what are you fucking talking about, bro?
Eventually, the British came in and provided some stability with something called the Treaty of Waitangi. The idea was that New Zealand would become a British colony, but that the Maori would have their rights protected. And then in 1975, New Zealand recognized this treaty in law for the first time. There were still a big gray area as to what exactly this treaty required. It established tribunals and led to a lot of rulemaking by judges, but Parliament mostly stayed out of it. Now, with this new bill, David Seymour is trying to change that. He's proposing concrete legislation that will clarify that everybody in the country, in New Zealand, whether they are Maori or not, is entitled to the full protection of the law.
Okay, so you got some of it right there, but leaving out some really critical details. The Treaty of Waitangi was brought in and signed in 1840 by over 500 Māori chiefs, right? It gives Māori people the right to their own land, like all their land and things that is theirs, and also they are equal citizens under the crown. That's sort of like the basics of it, right? But there were two different translations. There was an English translation and a Māori translation, and they're slightly different because Māori wasn't a written language. So they had to try to write it down, and there were like a few discrepancies. And so yeah, they then created the Waitangi Tribunal, and between like lawmakers and the courts and the Waitangi Tribunal, they've spent the past 50 years like sort of narrowing it down and figuring out what the principles mean and like how to apply it best to the country to make people equal and fulfill obligations that New Zealand has to Māori people. And then David Seymour comes in and calls it unfair, because why are we giving special treatment to Māori people? That doesn't seem fair. And basically a lot of the principles that were sort of created from this are things like, we learn Te Reo Māori in school. It is compulsory for at least 1 year in high school to learn Māori, and I think you have to learn it as a kid as well. I know I learned it as a kid. So the language lives on and is not only encouraged to be taught, but it is enforced to be taught. We all have some knowledge of Te Reo Māori. It also is what created the Māori Health Authority, which, you know, because Māori people are more disproportionately hit by the need for medical care and receive lower levels of care because of the socioeconomic environment that exists within our country. But they've already dismantled that this year. They've already started doing some damage there. It's also what helps give, you know, Māori people get like scholarships and positions being held in jobs so that there's like, you know, a quota that is filled so that you have, you know, enough Māori people in well-established and good-paying jobs, and that there is representation for them, and there are people, Māori people, in all types of fields, because they have a lower chance of getting those jobs, again, given the socioeconomic environment that we have created. And David Seymour doesn't think that's fair. David Seymour thinks that we need to get rid of all of those things. Anything that exists that is specifically something that Māori people can get is not equal. It's not equal. That's unfair. That's giving them an unfair advantage, isn't it? Shouldn't we live in a New Zealand that treats everyone the exact same? Shouldn't we all have the exact same opportunities? There shouldn't need to be a whole separate sector of health for Māori people. They shouldn't need their own separate scholarships and their own separate anything. They should just be completely integrated with everyone else and get the same things as everyone else. And David Seymour, you are so right, actually. You know what? That's so true. So what are you going to do about it? Are you going to go and give Māori people who live in like a low decile area a high decile education? Are you going to go and give them the same pay as everyone else? Are you going to equal out the pay gap? Are you going to give them the same education? Are you going to offer them the same opportunities? Are you going to offer them the same healthcare? Are you going to offer them the same as everyone else gets? No, that's what you're trying to take away because you don't think it's fair. It's ridiculous. It's like, I cannot believe that you can sit here and try to argue for equality by just taking shit away from them. The reason those things exist is to try to make it equal. If you keep giving those things, you keep giving the scholarships, you keep keeping those jobs open, and you keep helping move like more Māori people up the ladder, there's going to be less segregation. The whole point is to try to move more people who have been forced lower down up so that we are more on an equal playing field. Right now, we are not on an equal playing field. Māori people are still so disadvantaged comparatively to Pākehā people. And like, you cannot ignore that. You cannot deny that. Saying that it's unfair to give them all these opportunities, you can scream that from the fucking rooftops. It doesn't make it fucking true. We came into their country and stole their land and killed their people. And then we're like, we're in charge now. Sort yourselves out. And took everything from them. And then now when finally we decide to like give them opportunities and try to help pull them out of the gutter that we left them in, you say that it's unfair? That like we shouldn't throw them a rope. Let them fucking climb themselves out of the hole. We're standing at the top, right? We threw them in a fucking deep hole. We're standing at the top. We're looking down at them. We've thrown them a rope and can pull them up one at a time. And you want to take that rope up and tell them all to just climb out and get to where we are without our help. That's not equality. You have to pull them out. We have to help them because we put them there in the fucking first place.
Right now, New Zealand explicitly provides reparations to people who identify as Maori. In addition to affirmative action, they just announced a, quote, financial redress of $30 million plus interest to Maori tribes, along with a fund of more than $1 million to assist with cultural revitalization. New Zealand politicians also regularly give lengthy apologies to the tribes, like this one. Watch.
I'm here at Ngāti Maru's official settlement ceremony, where a representative from the Crown is going to deliver an official apology.
The Crown makes the following apology to Ngāti Maru. The Crown's many breaches of Te Tiriti o Waitangi left Ngāti Maru feeling like refugees in their own homeland.
I'm really failing to see the problem with that. I'm really struggling to understand what the issue you have with this is. Like, here's the thing about reparations, right? It's like, well, I didn't do anything. My family didn't do anything. It was just my ancestors. I'm like, yeah, okay, your ancestors did shit that has left these people who also didn't do anything with nothing. Like, they do deserve that compensation. I started with more because of what my ancestors took. They started with less because of what my ancestors took. Reparations make sense. My ancestors took their fucking land and forced them out. They do deserve something from me because although I didn't do anything, neither did they.
Yep, just keep apologizing. 500 years of apologies won't be enough. Just keep on forever. It could be 1,000 years from now. We need more apologies. Just keep on apologizing.
Well, you kind of do have to keep apologizing if you keep refusing to make it better. You know what I mean? Like, if shit's still fucked, you still need to do things about it. It's not fixed yet. We aren't on equal footing yet. A lot needs to happen. They're still fighting to take shit away. Like, what do you, if things stopped getting worse and started getting better, maybe less apologies would need to be had.
This kind of thing has been going on for decades in New Zealand. They fly the Maori flag, they apologize to them incessantly, pay millions of dollars, and in the end, it's not enough. The demands keep coming. As a result, now their news reports are barely comprehensible because they're all speaking a foreign language. I'm sorry. Things are becoming, like, you can't understand them because they're speaking a foreign language. Māori is an official language of New Zealand. It was the first language of New Zealand. It is an official language. We have 3 official languages: English, Te Reo Māori, and New Zealand Sign Language. We have entire TV stations that are dedicated to being entirely in Te Reo. We have schools that are entirely in Te Reo. There is an effort to bring back Te Reo Māori and have more people speaking it because it almost died and we don't want the language to die. I don't think it's a bad thing to be playing TV shows and news segments in one of the official languages of the country.
One of the major concerns from opponents of the bill is the absence of any mention of tēnā rangatiratanga, that loosely translates to Māori autonomy. Did you get that? Tēnā rangatiratanga.
Okay. This is fucking hilarious of him because this is how it's been my entire life. This is not a new, like, a political thing. We just use Māori words in our language sometimes. It's just a thing that you do. They are, like, integrated into our language. We use it at school. It's on TV. It's in court. It's everywhere. You answer the phone with, like, kia ora. Everyone, when, like, addressing people, it's like tēnā koutou katoa. Like, it's a thing that happens. You do just use Māori words every now and then. You ask your class, like, listen up in Māori. I can't remember what that is right now. That's terrible. We learn waiata at school. I've never said a prayer before. I've never, like, said prayers or grace or anything at school, but we did say karakia. We all learn waiata. We sing our national anthem in both languages. Like, we make an effort to use te reo. We call New Zealand aotearoa a lot of the time. I would do it more, but then some of you would get confused, so I usually say Aotearoa New Zealand. Like, we have made active effort to try to revitalize Te Reo Māori, and it is used casually. It is used in Parliament. It is used in workspaces. That is how it should be. If anything, we should be using it more. Your country has completely erased the language. Like, I don't know any words in Native American. I've never heard any of them spoken. I feel like a lot of Native American people don't even know any of their own language. There's been no effort to revitalize that at all. And like, then you come in here and you make fun of us for speaking one of the official languages of our country and trying to preserve it. Fuck off, bro. We know what she's saying. We are used to this. We speak like this. It doesn't sound silly or wrong or foreign or anything. This is how I expect to be spoken to. This is how I expect things to sound, because this is how we talk and this is how it should go. And making fun of a whole fucking language, bro.
What's happening over there is a case study that we should pay attention to. And what I mean by that is that New Zealand has bent over backwards, apologizing for the alleged evils of colonization. They've paid out reparations, they've flown the flags, they've done everything. They've centered their whole society around land acknowledgements and so on. And now there are pagan chants breaking out in the middle of Parliament. That's what they get for all of this kowtowing and bowing and submitting. This is what they get.
It's so funny because like you say all of this as though Māori people are like praised and worshipped and get everything they want. The incarceration rates are still so heavily racist. They are so heavily, like, Māori people are incarcerated at a far higher rate than anyone else. Their suicide rates are higher. Their pay is lower. Their education is lower. The abuse rates are higher. Homelessness rates, like all of that. They are negatively affected by everything so much worse than anyone else is. The racism towards Māori people is ridiculous. Police brutality happens. So much shit that goes on. So much more that needs to be like repaired. And trying to act as though everything is fine because we fly the Te Reo flag and because we have like a Māori language week and we apologize for what we've done. Like, we're doing bare minimum. Like, New Zealand is one of the best places in the world for how we have treated, like, our Indigenous people after colonization. And I recognize that, and I am still very, very aware that it is nowhere near enough. And, like, if I can look at how we treat Māori people and see how bad it is and know that we're better than most other places, that's fucked up. It's so fucked up. It makes me so mad. And like, I love sitting here and being like, this is what we're gearing up for, guys. Like, this is important to us because we're watching this happen, and this could happen in our country. Good. I fucking hope it does, because Native Americans have fuck all. I know nothing. Like, I'm not from the US, so I'm not expected to know this. Just like I don't really expect people to know much about Māori people. But considering how much I do know about the US, I know very, very little. And I feel like I should know more. And I feel like a lot of Native American people don't know very much either. You know, like I think that this is needed. Like, I hope this rattles everyone. I hope this spreads to other places. I hope we start seeing this shit in Australia. I hope we start seeing this shit in the US. I hope we start seeing it in Canada. I think that we absolutely, like, need more justice for Indigenous communities and Indigenous people, because there is not enough.
None of this makes any sense given the Maoris' history. If we're going to play the game of generational guilt, they should be apologizing to all the people that their ancestors have enslaved.
Who were the Maoris historically? Were they men and women of peace? Or were they brutal, brutal people who did terrible things to each other and to people they met? I'm not willing to have my own culture ransacked and turned through this lens of pure evil.
Again, like, what did we do? Like, and what about us? Because I don't see white people looking any different, to be honest. We also participated in all of that. How much beheading did we do? How many wars did we start? How many people did we murder and rape? Like, and continue to as well, might I add. Like, I do not understand, just because this brutality happened with like different weapons that you consider inferior doesn't make it any different. Like, no, okay, killing people that's not a cool thing to do. But like, saying that it's wrong because they did it when we also did it just makes you a hypocrite. Royalty that were in charge at this time were fucking decapitating people left, right, and fucking center. Like, what are you talking about? I don't understand. I don't understand this argument at all. They were a brutal people. So were we. So were we. Everyone was incredibly violent at that sort of time, right? Like, it's not, it's not a secret. We still decided to come in there and then take over their space. Like, we could, if you hated it so much, if the British were so put off by it, they could have just fucked off, left them to it. They didn't, though. Decided they wanted that land instead.
So keep this absurd, debasing spectacle in mind whenever you hear about reparations in this country or about how oppressed some indigenous groups allegedly are. Even if you give these people what they want for decades, they will always want more. No matter how much you apologize and pay money, it doesn't matter.
Apologizing and giving money doesn't actually fix every problem. Like, saying sorry doesn't get people out of jail. Saying sorry doesn't give people a better education. Just being like, you can say sorry as much as you want. They'll never be grateful. You haven't done anything that like they should be grateful for. You haven't actually given any ground.
Or how about this? How about saying to anyone, any indigenous group, anywhere in the world, you apologize first. You get up and make a big show and fall to your knees apologizing for all the terrible things your ancestors did. You apologize first. You lead by example. When are we going to get an indigenous group anywhere in the world that does that? You apologize for all the terrible things your ancestors did.
He's so hurt over this. He's like fucking pissed. He's like, I'm sick of white people apologizing for hurting people. Why would they have to apologize right now? Right? Like, indigenous people fall to your knees to apologize for what your ancestors did. What fat load of good that's gonna fucking do? That's not happening anymore, is it? Like, okay, these indigenous groups were hurting each other at some point or hurting other people at some point. Like, those people are no longer being impacted by that, are they? There's no need to apologize because it's not happening anymore. Things have changed. Just like if there was full equality between like Maori people and Pākehā, the apologizing wouldn't need to happen anymore because it would be solved. It would be fixed. If there was already equality that worked, there would be no apologizing because it would have actually already happened. So indigenous people do not need to apologize for the people that they have hurt in the past because they are no longer hurting them. This is about the society that we live in currently and the fact that we all deserve to be treated equally and fairly in the society that we have now. And these people are still being treated unfairly because of what our ancestors did to them. And it's not even been that long. This, for us, was like the 1800s. That was only like 2 centuries ago. That's like, what? Only a few, like my great-great-great-great-great-grandparents. Like, it's not even that far away from me. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that long ago.
Now, as the saying goes, when you're accustomed to privilege, equality feels like oppression.
That's hilarious, because that's exactly how you're acting right now. Matt Walsh, you are the #1 representative of being a privileged person who, when equality starts to come in, you feel oppressed. That, like, you are the like face of that.
Probably too late for New Zealand to correct their mistake, and that should be a pretty big clue to everybody in this country that unless we also want to return to the Stone Age, we should take a very different approach. We should affirm the greatness of Western civilization.
God, what an insufferable man. Jesus Christ. Okay, so what we learned today is that Matt Walsh doesn't know shit about New Zealand. He doesn't know shit about Māori people or culture or anything, as we knew. And more importantly, he doesn't give a single fuck. But we also knew that. I hope that you all learned something. The protest against this bill has taken place this past week, and it's the biggest protest in New Zealand history, so that's really fucking cool. No one is for this. Not even our Prime Minister. Like, it's just the ACT Party, so the bill is likely not going to pass. It is very, very unlikely the bill is going to pass because we do have a far-right government right now with ACT, with National, and with New Zealand First, which is an insanely fucked up trio we have of Prime Minister and 2 Deputy Prime Ministers, considering everything. At least, you know, a majority of government does not want to go through with this bill. It is likely not going to pass, but Kiwis have been very vocal about this. Protests have happened all over the world for it. Yeah, fuck Matt Walsh and fuck all these people who are saying that it's embarrassing and cringy and whatever because you don't know anything. Like, you don't understand. It's got nothing to do with you. Don't be a disrespectful piece of shit asshole. Yeah, so I hope that you've learned something. I don't get to talk about New Zealand very often. I don't get to talk about home very often because it doesn't come up very much. We don't really care that much. So, you know, it's been a good opportunity for me to look into what's happening back home a bit more and then share a bit of that with you. And I hope that, you know, you've learned a little bit of something today. And I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope that you got mad right along with me. A massive thank you for watching and for caring. If you would like to see more videos from me, then please don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and turn on the little bell. I upload twice a week. A massive thank you to my Sprout and Above patrons whose names are up on the screen right now. I appreciate you greatly. And a huge thank you to my Kiwi Cat patrons: Bobby, Ikazel, Ellie, Chris, Samuel, Knitting Menace, Radsack, Lady Nutbar, Mr. Noodle, Ella, River, and Phenomenally. I love and appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for joining. If anyone else would like to become a patron, you go to patreon.com/savvycat or click the top link in the description. For as little as £1 a month, you get my videos a day early. And then for £3 and up, you get things such as outtakes, bonus mini podcasts, live streams, vlogs, and more. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram, The Queer Kiwi, and Twitter, That Queer Kiwi. Also Blue Sky, apparently now, which is also The Queer Kiwi. Same with TikTok. So many social medias. Oh my God. I hope that you enjoy the rest of your day. Stay safe. Keep fighting. I love you. Mwah.